Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be slightly different because unfortunately you're going to have to deal with my face on the screen. I'm not used to doing vlogs or video diary kind of things. So forgive me if this is not as fluent as like other people's ones. But I thought that I will do this video based on my labor experience. I have a daughter who's now 12 weeks old, and as you can probably hear, I have her down here on the floor in her little swing. And what I noticed as well is that before I gave birth, I heard so many horror stories about giving birth itself. And I just wanted to share my positive experience, because for me, it wasn't as bad as what everybody else had made me believe it was. So I'll start from the very beginning. I, as well as many other girls or women, had a massive fear of giving birth, because it's kind of like the unknown. I didn't know what contractions were going to feel like, and I kind of started to research all over the internet people's experiences. I started asking everybody what their experience was like, but I realized that that was not a really good thing to do, because there's not that many people who share positive experiences. There's a lot of people who share the horror stories and how contractions were the worst pain that they've ever felt in their life, how they felt like they were going to die. I remember when I was getting ready to pack my hospital bag, I think it was about 8 months at the time when I did my DIY for my hospital bag. I remember I started to really panic, because I knew any moment now, like, I'm going to be giving birth. So yeah, fear started to kick in. But also I remember going to my mother-in-law's house when I was about 9 months pregnant, and her next door neighbor was outside having a cigarette, and she asked me how far I was, and I said to her, I'm 9 months pregnant. And then I told her that I was a bit worried about giving birth. And then she said to me, you know, look around, there's so many women who have had children and they've all lived to tell the tale. So you know what, I realized that there are many women, even in remote parts of this world, who give birth naturally. No medication, nothing, no assistance, no help from midwives or anything like that. You know, they just give birth and they live. Do you know what I mean? Like, they survive. I don't see why I can't as well. So I started to put those thoughts into my mind. And not only that, but I don't know if you have like a belief or you focus on something that's really precious to you. So for me, it's my faith. And I remember in the Bible it says that, yeah, giving birth is going to be painful. But I also read that God will never allow us to go through anything that we can't handle. So I really held on to that, and I used that to this situation. So I said to myself, do you know what? Women are designed to give birth. And the reason why I'm going through this is because I can do this. Like, I can do it. And you're in the situation where it's like, there's only one way this baby's going to come out. I mean, it can't stay inside you forever. So you're going to have to give birth sooner or later. So I started to put those thoughts into my mind, and I think for me, pain starts from your mind first. And the moment that you're able to rein in your thoughts, to rein in the way that you see labor, everything starts to change. And I say that because when I went into early labor, I remember it was a Friday, and I remember in the beginning, for me, labor didn't hurt at the very beginning. So I thought that they were Braxton Hicks. So Braxton Hicks comes at like the later stage of your pregnancy, and they're like random cramps that you get in your stomach. So it's like your stomach will tighten and then it will go back to normal. And then maybe later on in the day it will tighten again and it will go back to normal, but it doesn't hurt at all. And I remember saying to my sister-in-law, oh, I'm having these little cramps in my stomach, but I don't know whether or not they're Braxton Hicks or not, because they don't hurt. And she said, well, it sounds like Braxton Hicks, because if you're in early labor, you'll notice that it hurts, and also it will be more of, you can time it. So she said to write down the times that you get these little cramps, and see if they're consistent. So I said, okay. And I noticed that they were coming now every 20 minutes, but at the same time, it wasn't hurting. So, and I left it for a while, and then they were coming 10 minutes apart. Still, it wasn't really hurting for me. It was more like little tightenings of the stomach, but nothing that I would cry over. And I remember saying to my husband when he came home from work, and I said, look, I think I'm in early labor. And he looked at me and he just laughed at me. He said to me, Jen, stop milking it, because you probably just want attention right now. And I said, no, seriously, I think I'm in labor, or in early stages of labor. So I was at my mom's house at the time, and I said to my mom, look, I think I'm in early labor. And she said with like my husband did, oh, you know, I don't think you're in labor because, you know, you should be feeling some sort of pain. And so I told her to feel my stomach when the next time the contractions came. And then she said, oh my gosh, actually, I think you are, like, you know, it does feel like a contraction. But I'm one of those people that when I'm in a lot of pain, or if I feel any pain, I start to laugh. So even when I'm in a lot of pain, they don't really think that I'm in pain because I deal with it really differently. And it's really weird how that happens. I don't know why. I've always been like that since I was young. When I'm in a lot of pain, I start laughing. But because I was just talking about it so casually, honestly, I didn't feel like it was that painful at all. So I remember when I got to about 5 minutes apart, I called the hospital. And the midwife said to me, you know, you don't sound like you're in pain, so I don't think it's anything for you to come in for. And I said, no, seriously, I think I should be coming in because I think I'm in early labor. She said, okay, well, you can come in and we'll see how things go from there. So I went in and they checked everything. They said, you don't sound like you're in pain. And they checked how dilated I was, and I was only like 0.5 centimeter, by the way. When they check how dilated you are, I thought they had some sort of like measuring device, like, I don't know, maybe like a tape measure or something to like measure how wide you are. I didn't realize that they use their fingers, and I was just like, okay, I was not ready for that. But anyways, you just take a deep breath and you get on with it, really. So anyways, I was sent home. Then when the contractions were coming, maybe like, I think it was about 3 or 2 minutes apart, I called again and I said, look, they're coming about 2 minutes apart, and now the pain is starting to come on a little bit. And I told my sister-in-law, she said, no, this sounds like you're in labor, but I don't understand why you're not feeling the pain as bad as you should be. But I was feeling some sort of pain, but not majorly. I mean, it was just something that I would just say, oh yeah, I have a little bit of pain, kind of thing. So I called the hospital again, and they said, no, you don't sound like you're in labor. Don't even bother coming in because you're just going to waste your time. But I went in anyway because obviously I don't know when I'm supposed to go in. In antenatal class, they told me that I need to go in at 5 minutes apart. Now they're 2 minutes apart, I definitely feel like I need to be in there. When I got in there, the midwife looked at me and said, no, you don't look like you're in pain. So anyways, I was sent merrily on my way back home. I was so disappointed. I was sent home quite a few times actually. So I stayed at home overnight, and I noticed the pain was now starting to kick in. Yeah, so I started to really panic when I realized actually this is labor. So because I started to panic, like in my mind I started to freak out, and I felt like I was losing myself, like I was losing control of my emotions, I was losing control of my thoughts. And you know, for me personally, the reason why I say that I feel like that pain starts in your mind is because when you start to freak out, you start to lose control of yourself, you start to panic, your body starts to shut down, and you start to feel every single little pain. And then I remember saying to my husband, you need to call the hospital, because if I speak to that midwife again and she knows that it's me, she hears my voice, she's just going to tell me to stay at home. So you call them and tell them that I need to go in because now I'm really feeling the pain. And so yeah, they took me in. And when I got assessed by the midwife there, she said, no, you're still like, I was 5 centimeters dilated at the time. I don't think they take you in until you're about 6 centimeters dilated. And then I said to her, look, is there any way that I can stay here in the hospital? She said that there's a thing called pethidine, which is an injection. And I knew that I was too far gone to take pethidine, because in antenatal class, they taught us that the pethidine is only good when you're in the very, very early stages of labor. And the pethidine just gives you an opportunity to take a nap while your contractions are going. But because I was so far gone through my early labor, I knew that it was not going to work for me. But I took it because she said it's going to help. If I take the pethidine, I'll have to stay overnight in the hospital. So I was like, yep, give it to me. So because I took that, me and my husband were able to stay over on the ward. And that's when the pain started to really kick in. So I started to really think like different thoughts. I started to think positive thoughts. I was trying to ignore the pain and the fear that I was feeling, and just to focus on like the baby coming, because I kept on thinking to myself, every time my contraction comes, it's my body that's doing all that work for me, and it's natural. That's how our bodies are designed to do that. So every time I was feeling the contraction, I was thinking, yes, that's my baby coming down even more. So even if you don't believe in God or anything like that, you can just focus on your child coming. Your child is going to be there soon, and that should be enough motivation for you to just hang in there and just really focus. I can't really explain what labor feels like, because every birthing experience is different. So what I feel may not be what you feel, and people deal with pain differently. I'm just giving, you know, my take of how I dealt with the pain. Yeah, so I can't really describe to you what the contractions feel like. It is like a massive tightening of your stomach, and your bump will feel like a rock, but I can't tell you how it feels. So I personally don't think that it felt like period pains times 100, because a lot of people did say it will feel like a period pain. But the main thing is to how you see your thoughts about labor before you get there. So you have to really focus on positive things, and also your breathing techniques has to be, you have to learn how to breathe during labor, because if you don't know how to breathe during labor, you're going to really struggle. So I was breathing in to 4 counts and then blowing out to like 8, and yeah, that's how I dealt, because when I'm focusing on my breathing, I'm not focusing on the pain, so it kind of like distracts my mind. But anyway, yeah, so in the morning, so I stayed on the ward overnight. Then in the morning, the midwife said to me, you know, just let me know when you're in a lot of pain, and then we'll see whether or not you can go down to the birthing suite. So in the morning, I called the midwife and I said, look, can you check me now and see how far I've progressed, because I've been 5 centimeters since the night before. So she measured me and she was like, you still feel like 5 centimeters, but it's kind of like 5 going on to 6 or 5.5 centimeters. And then while she was measuring me, my water broke. So yeah, when my waters broke, she said to me also that my baby had pooed inside of me. So I don't know why she's smiling at me like she knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, I realized that she pooed inside of me, which people have said that it could mean that the baby's in distress. And also there's a specific, like, you can't really let labor go on for too long, because there are complications when the baby's pooed inside of you, and I don't want it to be a risk for the baby or for myself, and I was considered to be high risk as well. So yeah, so I had to kiss my water birth goodbye, and now I was hooked up to some machines, and yeah, for the next, I don't know, over 12 and over 14 hours, I was just there hooked up to that machine. Yeah, after maybe about 4 hours or so, they measured me to see how far I was dilated, and I was really hoping that was like 8 centimeters by that time. But they said to me I'm 6 and I haven't progressed from 6, so they decided to give me a drip, a hormone drip, to make my contractions stronger and longer. And I remember when I was in that suite, the midwife, she said to me, can you feel that pain? And I said, yeah, I can feel it. And she said to me, well, how are you still talking to me like a normal conversation? Because usually if you're in pain, like going through your contractions, you shouldn't be able to talk and you shouldn't be able to walk, and you're doing both. So I'm wondering whether you can feel it or not. And I said, yeah, I can feel it, but I can still talk through it. It's not even something that I'm going to be screaming over. So she offered the gas and air to me. So I tried it, and to be honest with you, it just was not for me. So I said, no, I'm not going to take the gas and air anymore. I'll just go natural. I'll go, you know, no pain relief. I'll just take it. So they were like, okay, that's your choice. And I managed to go through my labor without gas and air. And I was standing up for most of the time as well. And my husband was really, like, he was rubbing my back for like 10 hours straight. Like, I would not let him leave my side. So they said to me, okay, 4 hours and then we'll check you again. And 4 hours seems like a long time to be in labor with intense contractions, like artificial contractions. It sounds like a long time, but when you're in that situation, honestly, the time flies so fast, because you're focusing so much on your breathing, you're focusing on your thoughts, you're focusing on managing your emotions, your pain. The time flies by so fast. And before I knew it, they were measuring me again, and they said, you know what, you're still 6 centimeters, so we'll try upping the dosage and seeing how we go from there. And then it got to a point where they had to, because I wasn't dilating past 6 centimeters, the midwife said, okay, look, I'm gonna call a doctor to kind of like examine you to see what options we have. And I knew at that point that I was gonna have to have a C-section, because I wasn't going past 6 centimeters, and I've tried twice now to up the dosage of the hormones to try and, you know, make my body contract so much to kind of get my cervix to open, and it wasn't opening any wider, and the baby was coming down, like down strong. I didn't want to have surgery, because it's a major surgery and the recovery from a C-section is not easy. But anyway, the doctor came, she examined me, and she said, you know what, the baby's back to back with you, so that's not the most ideal position, which is why I was having the back pain so intensely, because the baby's back was against my back. And she said, I will check you again in maybe like an hour or so, but if you haven't, if you haven't dilated to like maybe like 8 or 9 centimeters, then there's just no point in trying anymore. It's best to just have, you don't have to have an emergency C-section. So as the midwife said to me, look, do you want to take the epidural? I didn't feel like I needed to take it, but I knew I was gonna have to take it anyway. But not long after I had the epidural, the doctor came in, and I was already being prepped for theatre. And I remember before going into theatre, I remember the midwives were talking to me, and they were saying to me that in med school they don't teach them about patients like me. And because of the way that I went through the whole process with no pain relief, and also because of what up until that point, and because how I was talking and walking through my contractions, because, you know, for me, I felt like it was more like a tick box exercise. If you're not screaming down in pain, then you're not in labor. If you're walking, you're not in labor. If you're talking, you're not in labor. So I felt like it was too much of a tick box exercise, and I felt like they didn't really recognize that some people deal with pain a lot differently. And I remember even when I was in labor, there were people who were screaming the whole hospital down. And for me personally, I just feel like that scares so many people. And when you hear that, you feel like, oh my gosh, like someone is being murdered like next door. And it's like, it's really horrible to hear that. But yeah, anyway, so I went into theatre, and I remember the anesthetist, I can't even pronounce it, the guy who does the anesthetic, he gave me an extra dose of the anesthetic. And it was so weird because now I couldn't feel anything from my neck downwards, so I couldn't move my hands, I couldn't feel myself breathing, and I couldn't I felt like my speech was going funny, and I was really panicking. I was saying to my husband, move my hands for me because I can't move my hands. I said to him, keep talking to me because I'm scared I'm gonna pass out. And he was like, Jen, you're fine, just breathe, don't panic. Now I'm really panicking. The procedure is not that long, it's not a long, maybe like 45 minutes procedure. But because it's an emergency C-section, they don't have time to be wasting. So they explain that they will make the incision, then they will literally rip your muscles open. And yeah, that just made me cringe. But in the process of doing that, one of the risks were that one of the veins, the main veins or arteries in your womb, could get torn apart. And that's what happened with me. So it got damaged, and I lost about 2 liters of blood while I was down the operating table. So when my baby came out, I heard her cry for a little bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, like my heart started to beat really fast. I was like, 9 months I've been wondering, what's my baby gonna look like? I can't wait to meet her. Like, you know, you feel her moving in your stomach, you know, up until the point where you go into labor. And then when they brought her over, like when I heard her cry, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was gonna pass out. And when they brought her over, I felt like I couldn't look at her, because I knew that if I look at her, I'm just gonna, it's so overwhelming. I honestly thought I was gonna pass out. But because I had lost so much blood, my husband had to go to the ward with my daughter, our daughter, and I stayed in the theatre for like probably like another 2 hours for them to sort out everything. But when I went to the ward, it was so surreal having my daughter put on my chest, because you have skin to skin. And it made everything so worthwhile. Like, I would literally go through the pain all over again just to have that moment when you meet your child. It's like, I can't even explain to you how it feels. It's just so amazing. And I would do it all over again just to have her. But I would say recovering from a C-section was not an easy process. And for me, I found that painful, because it's not like a period of time and then it's going to be over, like a short period of time. It took about 6 weeks. And not only that, but I had to inject myself every single day for 6 weeks. I had to take multiple tablets. I had to have lots of iron tablets because obviously I lost a lot of blood. I remember the midwife saying to another midwife while I was in hospital, she was saying, why do people make birthing plans? Because like no one ever sticks to them. And you know what, it's so true. What I put on my birthing plan, there was just no point in me even having a birthing plan, because everything that I put on there just didn't happen, and everything that I didn't want to happen happened. So yeah, that was my birthing experience. Like I said, I can't really explain to you what it feels like, but I know that there are ways that you can control your mind to help you go through the pain. If you do take pain relief, if you do end up taking an epidural, it doesn't mean that you're less of a woman than someone who goes fully natural with no medication, gives birth naturally. It's not a competition of who can give birth the best. It's all about dealing with the process and making sure that you look after yourself and your child. Do what's best for you, do what's best for your baby. Because at the end of the day, the baby's going to come out however way that you deal with how it comes out. So if you end up having an emergency C-section, if you have an epidural, if you only take gas and air, it doesn't matter, as long as the baby comes out healthy as possible, and you stay healthy and look after yourself as well. So yeah, this video isn't to say I'm a hero because I did this or whatever. It's not about that. It's about us as women dealing with things and sharing positive experiences. And what's funny is that after I gave birth, my husband saw me in a different way. He saw me like Superwoman. So I remember him every day, he'd be like, every time he would tell his friends about you know, that the baby was born, I remember overhearing him on the phone, and he'd be saying, oh my gosh, like, you know, Jen is such, like, you know, she's such a soldier. She's such a soldier. She went through everything, and she you know, she coped so well, and all these things. He was so like bragging about me. I was just like, listen, tell me more. For me, I've had many blessings in my life, but I can say that having a child has been one of the best blessings for me. Like, I feel like my life is complete. Like, for me, my husband, and I'll be honest with you, it was probably one of the best, scariest at the same time. It was a little bit scary, but it was one of the best experiences that I've had in my life. And yeah, I think my next video I'll do another DIY, because that's what I'm best at. Like, I'm not very good at vlogging. I'm not that fluent in how I deliver my vlogs or anything like that. But yeah, I think I'm currently redecorating my daughter's nursery. The next one that I'm gonna be making is a painting with her name on it. So I might do a video on what her name means and how we got to choose her name. Because we chose it specifically for a reason. But if you have any other suggestions, just let me know. And yeah, so hopefully if you want to check out my DIY videos, go ahead and subscribe if you like what you see, and don't forget to click the little bell button, because then you'll be able to get notifications of when I upload my next video. So hopefully I'll see you in my next video.